Hi there, welcome to Hey Sound Guy, the podcast where I'll be peeking behind the curtains of the wonderful world of music. Each week I'll be speaking to sound engineers, music industry professionals, musicians, and everybody I think are interesting, basically. And we'll get to know them a little bit better and share some fun stories from the road. Now, my next guest is a radio host in South Africa. I met her in 2012 in Los Angeles, just by chance. We got chatting. She interviewed me for her radio show on RSG, which is an Afrikaans radio station in South Africa. We kept in touch. She's a very interesting person, radio producer. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor, great pleasure to introduce to you the fantastic Martelize Brink.
Hello.
Hello, thank you for doing
it. Thank you so much. What an honor to have a chat with you.
It's an honor for me. I tell you what, I've been nervous about this thing for the entire time ever since I booked it.
No, man.
Yeah, but I mean, we've.
Yeah, you see, I just think it's that. Sorry, daar was nou delay. Wie van vooraf begin?
It's okay. Just keep going.
I think maybe begin van vooraf dan gaan ek. Okay, all right. Ek wil nie vir jou so baie editing gee nie. It's just very cool to see you again. I can't remember how many years ago it was in Los Angeles of all places in a lift.
2012.
You know. Yes, yeah. This guy talking Afrikaans in the lift in this hotel we're staying at, and I just thought immediately, please, let's do an interview. So this is very cool.
Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. One of the weirdest things, everybody kept saying to me, like, oh, it's amazing how good you still speak Afrikaans. I'm like, okay.
But that's true. I mean, I think the continuing with the language when you're in a country where and the American accent and American English is actually quite overwhelming. Yes, now you're in the UK, so in the UK also that starts happening with both my sisters are there. Mm-hmm. So their accents have become quite posh, English posh, you know.
Okay.
But the American accent is overwhelming. So well done for keeping up with the Afrikaans and that.
Always. Now it's very important. I mean, with our daughter, she's trilingual because her mum's Italian, and I only speak Afrikaans to her. So yeah, it's important to keep up with your language and with the roots.
She is privileged. I would have been very happy to get a third language. I did French and German at school, at university, Xhosa at school, primary school, and it's so bad when you can't keep up with the conversation side of that language if you don't use it enough, you know.
Yeah, no, it does. It just kind of falls away if you don't use it all the time.
Yeah. Oh,
well, right. So I would like you to introduce yourself and tell us what it is that you do, please.
That's very easy. I'm a presenter, producer for radio. I work for the South African Broadcasting Corporation. It's like the BBC of South Africa. And I work for one of the 11 language stations at the SABC. We have 11 official languages in South Africa. And I represent or work then on the RSG, Radio Without Borders was the previous name. Now it's just RSG. And it's the Afrikaans radio station for the SABC. And I used to broadcast 9 to 12 for something like 15 years. And then they wanted a reshuffle. And now we're on 12 to 3. Okay. So it's a privilege to be on radio. I believe it's the best medium.
Well, it's fantastic. Yeah, especially, you know, having sort of a longer slot, I think is nice because you can settle in a little bit and, you know, get to be more comfortable and relax and get your music and your message across and more in a relaxed sort of fashion rather than doing a 15-minute here or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
So you've been, you said you've been with RSG 15 years?
Okay, so it's been almost 20 years actually. I used to be freelance. So I used to do freelance educational programming for them. And then I started producing the 9 to 12 slot. And then they appointed me permanently to broadcast or to be the actual presenter as well. My previous station was at Stellenbosch University. There's a community radio station there, and I worked there for 4 years as program manager, and I did the breakfast show there. And then at RSG needed a younger person to broadcast their youth programming. And as a public broadcaster, you've got a mandate, and our mandate is to have youth programming. So that's how I started at RSG. Didn't earn anything at the previous radio station. We didn't have enough money to pay ourselves, you know.
Wow.
So you worked for peanuts. You're a program manager and you broadcast every day, and you earn $1,800 a month. That's ridiculous. But anyway, so at RSG at the SABC now, it's 20 years. Yeah.
Wow, fantastic. That's quite a career. That's and I guess you're still enjoying it very much.
We have been fired though, that I have to say, but it sounds very dramatic. But yeah, they're restructuring at the SABC, and they just decided, well, it's a very long story, but in terms of my position, they don't want, I was permanently employed by them. So I was employed on a permanent contract basis. So you would do documentaries, you would go do outside broadcasts, you do your show, you do special series. I did a series on sexuality, a series on a specific community in Cape Town, Atlantis, and the amazing people that work there in the community, that kind of stuff. And then they decided, no, they want the presenters and producers all to be freelance. So yesterday was technically my last day after 17 years permanent working at SABC. Okay. And from today, we started on freelance contracts. So jokingly, I was technically fired, but yeah,
fair enough.
Never been fired from anything before. I think it's so exciting.
No, I know. It's one of those things.
Complicated.
Almost like a thing of pride. Isn't it? It's like, I've never been fired.
Yeah,
no,
pay your dues.
I've got the same thing. I'm scared to death of being, fired anywhere, because it's that... Well, I suppose also it's, yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So you started in Stellenbosch. Is that where you studied as well?
Yes. So I'm originally from Paarl. It's in the beautiful, beautiful, gorgeous winelands of Cape Town. So it's about 40 minutes drive from Cape Town. And I studied at Stellenbosch University. It's the closest university to Paarl. It's about 30 minutes drive from here. The most beautiful route, if you ever get the chance to visit South Africa, not UTians, people who are listening and watching wherever they are in the world. So it's just gorgeous. Every time I drove there, every day, I would just look at this amazing landscape. It's just beautiful winelands. And so I studied there. I studied political science at University of Stellenbosch. I did my honors degree in political science. I was supposed to be a psychologist.
Okay.
But that didn't work for me. I think I talk too much, Tiens. I think as a psychologist, you need to listen.
You need to listen more.
Listen a bit more. I think I talk way too much for that. But yeah, I found political science extremely interesting in the sense that a lot of people think it's about political systems, but it's actually about everything. It's about the earphones I'm using right now. Mm-hmm. It's about the color of my hair, the color of my eyes. Where's this laptop of mine that I'm using made? Where does the wine come from? Who picks the wine? How were they paid in the past, etc.? It's an extremely interesting field. No. So yeah, I'm always a big supporter of that department at any university or college, because I think it helps you to think and think of all sides of an issue. So I'm going to stop now, but I'm a massive political science fan.
No, please.
Yeah, exactly.
Please keep going. I'm intrigued. It's this is what this is about. Is just have a chat and find out what makes you tick and what it is that you like doing and your interests and things. Yeah. I get
very excited about politics. Yeah.
All right.
We had an actor. I'm saying that now. An actor here last night for a barbecue. I've known him for a couple of years, and he's busy with a project around here. And he's actually he stars in the new Tom Hanks movie. A South African actor. He's breaking into Hollywood now.
Fantastic.
You should line up an interview with him as well. Neil Sandilands, great guy. Anyway, and we got really, really philosophical and political about things last night.
Great.
So the moment you have conversations like that, you kind of miss that classroom setup where you have open discussions and throw around ideas. So and politics in Africa also, well, all around the world is extremely interesting, especially right now.
I suppose as well in the formal sort of educational setting, you're more allowed to have your opinion and to discuss it openly. Whereas, once you get out of that realm and you're discussing the same sort of subjects with regular people, for lack of a better word, or your friends or your family or whoever, then usually these things, because it can be such a divisive thing. I think people, it's like talking about religion. You shy away from that. You don't.
Yeah.
Nowadays, is the three things: there's religion, politics, and COVID. You don't talk about those things.
So you're supposed to add sex to that, but okay, let's stick to let's swap sex for the COVID, because that seems to be the thing these days, and and vaccines.
Yeah,
but that's COVID. So
yeah, it's sort of like a broad umbrella, which we'll just sort of shy away from. So you have you been going into the studio every day? Are you working from location, or?
So they decided for the first 3 months of the hard lockdown we had last year in March, for everyone in Cape Town, the Cape Town office completely. So we've got regions at the SABC. Cape Town is Western Cape is one of the big regions, and they decided to close that office building and focus on the head office. And most of our personnel and presenters are in Joburg, in Auckland Park, in Gauteng.
Mm-hmm.
So they decided to focus there. And after 3 months, I just contacted my boss and I said, listen, can I just speak to the local people here and just organize a way to make it safe for me? I can't sit at home anymore. We did interviews, for example, with people on WhatsApp. So you'll send a voice note question, they answer with a WhatsApp voice note back, and then I would compile it on our systems. I logged in remotely, but that's not, I just couldn't do it anymore. So I miss being on air. So I went back after 3 months. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Say again?
There's just no flow.
No, it's just no, none. I mean, it's not an interview. It's just at all. It's not an interview. It's an information interview, maybe. We tried to do it as well as possible, but it didn't work well. But it's new times. But in the end, so I went back after 3 months. So I started work again in June somewhere. And I have a co-host, and he waited another 6 months. He's also in his 60s now, and his wife's a doctor, so she's got a lot of contact, obviously, with patients. So we broadcast this week for the first time in a year together.
Nice.
So that was an interesting moment to be back in the studio together. But the thing is, you don't want to get too comfortable either. I think we have become a bit too comfortable. Everybody masks up. I sanitize like a crazy person, and yeah, it's the only thing you can do to protect yourself as much as possible. Wear quality mask and sanitize. But it's been an interesting time, and I think a very difficult time for everyone. But we can be lucky that we were still able to work. The arts, as we know, has taken massive strain.
Yeah.
The wine industry in South Africa, the alcohol industry, because they barred the sale, of course, of alcohol to free up doctors in emergency rooms and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, interesting times.
No, that it is for sure. Absolutely. We've all had to sort of make do in all sorts of ways and find different avenues of revenue. I've taken to making stuff out of wood. I recycle pallets. So you see the shield and the sword behind me, made as a commission for a friend of mine's son. And yeah, doing that and building saunas and building stuff, and then making food. So started making boerewors and biltong and stuff like that.
Nice, yay!
So yeah, no, it's but I see you've been
cool.
into the cooking side of things quite a bit as well. I see on your profile you've got a few funky recipes and some nice barbecue stuff going on. Tell us a bit about that.
Yes. Well, I wrote a cookbook. I gave out a cookbook. We published a cookbook about 2 years ago. I published a cookbook. Our family is crazy about cooking. My father used to, in South African terms, used to be called the South African potjiekos king. So he wrote 4 pot food, the black pots, He used to be a minister of the church. So he's actually a minister of the church. He's passed on now. But so that's how I grew up, in the backyard, cleaning potatoes and onions for thousands of people at Newlands, where, Northern Transvaal in that time and Western Province are going to play together, or against each other. And you'd fall asleep in the Isuzu Bakkie after many hours of helping out in these rows of massive, massive pots of food.
Wow.
That you helped cook. So I love those times. That's how I grew up, in the crazy minister's house. He grew up in Tanzania. So
Right.
he grew up very free as a person. My grandfather worked in Tanzania at a church there for a while. Anyway, so I wrote that book, and then at the end of last year, I told myself I'll never do a cookbook again. It's a lot of work, and to be certain that the recipe will be liked by people and that it will work, because I think people who love food cook on instinct. And now you've got to tell someone you put in 5 milliliters of salt, and it's very specific. You need to be very specific, because people who don't cook on feel need the specifics.
Yeah, for
so
sure.
I just decided I wanted to do,
When you first try a recipe out, you're gonna kind of follow the recipe.
Exactly, yeah. So I just decided I wanted to do the cookbook. So I sent the manuscript in, the preliminary manuscript. I sent in this week. So we'll see what my editor how she feels about it. So we're making a solid brisket again tomorrow.
Nice.
I just wanted, I've done it a couple of times already, and sat until 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning waiting for that thing to rest enough so I can check and cut it, because it needs to rest for 4 to sometimes 6 hours.
Yeah.
Here I am, lights are out, 2 o'clock in the morning with a glass of wine, waiting to taste this brisket. But yeah, so I've had so much fun with it. I love barbecuing. We light a fire 3-4 times a week. So we try and limit ourselves. It's difficult because we want to do it every night, but at some point you need to be healthy during the week as well, and not eat so much meat and drink wine. But yeah, so we're doing the book, and I'm also doing a TV series, which I think the concept is quite fun, where I can take your surname and maybe work it out as well. But it's basically a genealogist. I gave him a list of people, of guests that we would like to invite for this show, and he goes and he takes your surname and he researches your surname to see which country you come from, or where in the country you come from. And then I'm going to barbecue a typical dish from that country. So this same guy from last night, Neil Sandilands, is Scottish. His surname is Scottish. So he wants us to cook haggis, I've never made haggis to save my life. And my mother is also half Scottish. Her father, she's a Ruthven. So there's still a Ruthven castle in Scotland. It's fallen apart completely, but yeah, so that's the concept. So it's a busy time at the moment, but I'm having so much fun cooking. But yeah, you see, it's I've picked up, like I think a lot of people in this COVID time, so much weight, exercising every day just to try and keep it off while we're testing new recipes. But we're having so much.
No, that's great. That's fantastic. I mean, cooking is just one of those things. It's I mean, you get the sort of not instant, but instant gratification as well of your work, and it's the same sort of thing as, making something out of wood or clay or whatever. You see the product of your handiwork right there. And then the best thing about food is you get to taste it as well,
Exactly.
And then you know whether you've, and to see the happy faces of others when they're eating your food, it's it's unequivocal. It's brilliant.
That is what it's about in the end, is I want to feed people. And I also think cooking is calming. Your mind shuts off from everything else, and you just get a chance to calm down and take your time. And I don't want a restaurant. I don't want to, run after people in the kitchen. And I've been in that situation before, and I'll happily do long tables and, curated tables with good wine and all that kind of stuff. But you see, I don't want to spoil it for myself. I know chefs enjoy it. Well done to them. But yeah, I want to lazy cook. I want to slow cook and take my time and knead the bread as long as I think it should be kneaded. So I think it's been a lot of, a psychological savior for a lot of people.
Absolutely.
Because like as we interview psychologists and stuff, it's become a massive issue. Even a dentist that was in studio yesterday with one of the programs said people are grinding their teeth so much at the moment because of COVID, because of the stress at night. You don't know you're doing it. You fall asleep and then you clench and grind your teeth, and it's very bad orally. Obviously, stress people aren't dealing with, properly. So we're going to sit with actually a psychological pandemic. Anyway, long story short, I think cooking and baking, the banana breads and the
Yes.
I did not make a banana bread. I'm not a banana bread fan, but all those things have helped people to deal and to just calm down and spend time with family where they could. There were a lot of people obviously that were alone.
Yeah.
It's quite
That's
horrible.
I think that was the hardest thing for people who were alone. And I've seen some, especially towards the beginning, seen a few people sort of talk down because, oh, we're in lockdown and this guy goes and sits in the park. I'm like, well, you don't know this guy. You don't know his story. Maybe he's living by himself in a flat on the 17th floor. He needs a bit of just outside time. So don't go and judge someone until you know what their story is. And even then, maybe look at yourself first before you start judging others for their behavior. And if they're not harming you in any way, just mind your business. Mind your own business.
Exactly. No, exactly. I completely agree.
No, that's very exciting stuff about the cookbook, man. That's really awesome. I'd like to take a look when that comes out, but I might have a look at the one that you've already brought out. Is that also braai barbecue recipes, or is it sort of everything in the kitchen?
There's a little bit of barbecue in there, roosterkoeke, grid cakes, bread that you cook directly on the grid, and there's a very nice recipe. It's ox cheek that I actually ate in London for the first time with my sister's 40th, and I just thought, wow, this is amazing. And you cook these massive ox cheeks for 3 to 4 hours in red wine and port. It's just divine. But anyway, it's like oxtail almost, so it's the same kind of texture that you get in the end. But there are loads of that, but I focus more on ravioli, that you're teaching people how to make ravioli, and gnocchi is in the book. So it's quite diverse, the book in itself. Not a lot of desserts. I'm not a massive dessert person. For the book, I'm doing smoked ice cream, which is very, very nice, by the way.
Ice cream, that sounds...
Yeah, it's smoked. There's a guy, I think it's from Scandinavia, where you take a piece of completely burnt out charcoal, wood, not charcoal, rather just wood. And then you put it straight, while it's very hot still, you put it straight into cream. And we did it for guests the other day, just because I had the cream and just because I felt, let's just do it and see what happens. And we put it over a malva pudding, which is kind of a tipsy tart.
Yummy.
It was, that was so good, because it's technically quite clean because it's been burnt at extremely high temperature.
Cleanest thing that you get.
Burnt. But it's interesting what you can do with food and flavor. And if you look now at what people are doing with vegetables on the fire, that was a bit of a revelation for me. I just one day decided I've got some broccoli, I want to throw it on the fire, see what happens. Broccoli on high heat coals with a sweet soya. But anyway, I'm going to stop talking about broccoli.
No, keep going.
I love that stuff. I made a very nice Sicilian orange cake also in a pot, flat pot. Yes, it's divine. So,
and you made this on the dry?
Yes, I made it straight over the coals, barbecuing cake and putting ice cream on top and doing interesting stuff and smoking pasta and fresh pasta that we made and stuff. So I love I think that's where it comes from my father. My father loved experimenting. And when I go and I look at his books now, I mean, I can't remember if I've ever read through them to back completely. I was very small when he wrote it. It was late 70s, early 80s that he wrote the first one. And it's a classic. It's a bit of an Afrikaner classic book. A lot of people have it in their homes. And they would use soya sauce. He would use soya sauce in his recipes. I don't even think people knew what soya sauce was in that time in South Africa.
No.
And you only had stuff like cheddar cheese. There was no cheese aisle in South Africa in the 80s, you know?
That's
Everybody, if you had cheddar cheese, you were rich.
different,
Yeah,
different darkness of cheese, but it's all cheddar. That's all you
exactly.
get.
Exactly. So almost half, even in his green bean sheep pot, there's a handful of cheddar cheese. But I mean, it's a classic book. So it's been fun going through those recipes, just having a look and see. I wanted to include one or two of his recipes
Yeah.
in my book as well,
Mm.
in reference to him, and thanking for that
Cool.
nostalgia for the role he played as well. I'm
Mm.
definitely using an offal recipe of his because I don't cook that. I'm not, as I mentioned earlier, I'm not cooking sheep's stomach. I I guess there's a line, but yeah, maybe
Right.
one day, maybe
Uh,
one day.
Sheep stomach and cockroaches. There's a line.
Yes,
Not
yes,
those things and the worm.
yes. My
No.
my exactly. My parents did that. They used to love that, but I can't do it. Liver, that's as far as I'm gonna go. Liver
All right.
kidneys, maybe.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I think probably one of the nicest things I had was an eland liver. We went hunting in Zimbabwe when I was 11. My dad and I and a few other people. And yeah, fresh. Like we shot the eland and we dragged it back to the campsite, skinned it, got all the pieces off, and we had some liver in just a sort of flour and egg based. It was just
Beautiful.
fresh and delicious.
But that's how I always feel about it. I used to be quite not militant, but there was a year where I was a vegetarian. So I would eat meat if you put it in front of me on the table. Didn't want to offend you, but I had moral issues.
Yeah.
Because I would do interviews, and I know you know too much when you interview diverse people about diverse things. Plus, I've got sky high cholesterol, so I was like, no, this year I'm going to bring down my cholesterol. But it's been that way since I was born. So it's my father had sky high cholesterol as well. So here I go with my year of vegetarianism, and then at the end of that year, I found out I had massive iron issues. So because I was now vegetarian as well, it just exacerbated that completely. Yeah. So, and then my brothers hunt and that kind of thing, and we used to go like you went to Zimbabwe. We used to go every single year. Usually in South Africa during winter time, people go up north to Namibia. In that time, it was still southwest, but went to Namibia, and then my father would go hunting. We would drive throughout the night and arrive there at 4 o'clock in the morning, and the sweet old lady on the farm would give us rusks and, as you say in Afrikaans, moer coffee, but coffee. And I loved that time. I never had a problem with it at that time. And I went through a whole phase where I came back to the realization just that, and I know people have very strong opinions about this, but that I think when you've taken responsibility for your meat. So I'm not big on, I don't like trophy hunting. I'm very anti-trophy hunting.
Oh,
I find
100%. I'm with you.
I don't like that. So if you want to go and you want to shoot a springbok, to use the meat and use the entire animal for those purposes and for diet purposes to eat, then I'm fine with it. And I just think people need to take responsibility for their meat. I can't even say that I do that. I told my brother, they're much older than I am. They're 9 years, well, not much, 9 years older than I am. Springbok. I think I was 9 or 10 years old. And he said in so many words, and this is now a big hunter, and he said, you don't know what you're talking about. You have no idea what it feels like to kill an animal.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized there that he also doesn't take it lightly. You take responsibility for that life. And I know, I mean, I've got vegan friends. I've got a very good friend of mine is an activist for animal rights, and I think we should start treating obviously animals better. This is now a very long story, but in the end, I have respect for people that take responsibility for their food, for their meat, and where it comes from. So yeah, the hunting thing is difficult when you are making that the animal feel nervous, or if you're not taking a clean shot, that I judge. So
yeah, I mean,
there are a lot of aspects.
I don't think it's just sort of a weekend warrior type thing, because also as a hunter, whether you hunt with a rifle or with a bow, or you need to be as good as you can be, to be able to honor the animal, and to take, like you said, take responsibility for your kill, right? Because obviously, I mean, one thing that's a fact, right, is that no animal out there is immortal, right? And none of them are going to have a good death. In nature, nature sucks, man. Nature is, there's this Instagram page I follow called Nature is Metal. It's freaking brilliant. It's absolutely amazing. It just shows you how animals interact with each other in the wild, and there's zero mercy and zero fucks given whatsoever, and us as Homo sapiens, because we we have the ability to think and to take this life, and to because there's a conscience and there's all these other things that are involved in it, we need to try and give this animal the best death that we can. Okay, so even in that respect, it's an honor to the animal, and it's not you go out there and you just take an AK and you mow down everything it doesn't work like that. That's not how it is. You take one animal and you use it, and that is all fine. But like you said, trophy hunting, I'm not down with whatsoever.
Very anti.
It's a
like everything. Like everything, when it comes to humans consuming animal meat, like the politics you said, for example, I'm very open to discussion about these things. So I happily will sit with someone and talk about that. Someone asked me or sent me a direct message and said, yeah, you say you've got iron issues, but you can get that, you can eat red kidney beans, that's also good for you, blah blah blah. But for example, then I would say, listen, but go have a read about plant-based iron and animal-based iron. Plant-based iron isn't absorbed half as easily as animal. And it was a long story short. I think when you can, and people's bodies are different. One person is a successful vegan, the other person ends up in hospital, which I know of because they just didn't do it right.
100%.
You need to do it properly. If you want to be a vegetarian, do it properly. Another friend of mine also had to go back to meat. She had such massive iron issues. Anyway, iron issues is a different story now. But yeah, so I just believe as long as people can talk about it.
Yeah, and not
go into conversation
and not get too militant about it, too entrenched in their views. I mean, like you said, I wholeheartedly agree with you that the fact that we're all different and we all have different dietary needs, and that can come in quite well with the genealogy thing, because depending on where you're from, you're going to have different dietary needs. You're going to have different needs for, sunshine, vitamin D. You're going to have different needs for whatever it is, right? So all these factors need to be taken into account, absolutely 100%. But I mean, the fact that we are where we are as Homo sapiens, is very much thanks to meat and grilled meat, because when we accidentally started grilling our meat, we could keep it for longer. It wouldn't go off as quickly, because back in the 100,000 years ago, we didn't have fucking fridges or anything. So you kind of had to consume everything that you had to as quickly as you can. And that included bones and everything. And I mean, ever since we started getting away from raw meat, all those sinews, all those tough stuff, our appendix got smaller because that was where our body used to deal with the bones and stuff. And our stomach shrank and our heads got bigger, our brains got bigger. So it was this direct correlation. And now now we've got time. We don't spend 6 hours a day digesting the meal that we just had, but or chewing for 6 hours, if you will, because especially if I heard this thing where back in the day we used to chew because our diet was more vegetation and less animal products. We used to chew between 6 and 8 hours a day, chewing, so a lot of energy and
sounds
time.
Sounds like an elephant. I mean, or an animal grazing in the wild. So how much do they need to eat
grass to have enough nutrients to survive.
All day long. So, I mean, I completely understand vegetarianism 100%. And I can understand veganism as well, as, if you feel that is right for you and that's what your dietary needs are. And if you feel, for whatever reason, you've got a moral thing against consuming animal products. But I just always come back to the fact that, as smart as we are, we're still monkeys. We're still, we are still animals. We're part of this whole ecosystem, and every other part of the ecosystem takes what it needs when it needs it, without guilt or remorse. A lion's not going to feel sorry about eating a springbok, that's for sure, right? And so as long as we can respect nature and respect the food that we take, and respect the animals, and do it in a nice and a clean way, which I think we're definitely moving towards at the moment, where our consciousness has grown to a point where we're like, we have empathy with animals as well. Because if you go back 50 years, people would have no qualms about animal cruelty or any of these sorts of things. But as a world population, and as our consciousness has basically grown, I think we now have also empathy for animals and for nature more than we've ever had before. Whereas before it was just a utility that we can use, and now we're like, okay, we understand that it's also part of us, and we are part of them, and we form the circle of life.
Yeah, no, that's a very nice speech you gave us there. Very nice, very nicely philosophical, I tell you.
Oh, I like to sometimes go deep, and then sometimes we stay on the surface. No, I mean, something like meat and food is a passion of mine, and I mean, I'm an advocate for just us being omnivores, because that is what we are. So to deny yourself that, you can't expect not to have any repercussions from that. Like you said, one of the big things is iron deficiency. Another thing is protein deficiencies. And yes, you can absolutely 100% get all your iron and all your proteins and everything from plants. You can do. But as you mentioned before, it isn't as readily absorbed by your body as it is. And also, to get the same amount, you're going to have to chew a lot longer. There's going to be a lot more than you're going to have to stuff in your face to be able to get the same amount of nutrients. So
true.
But each to their own. Let them all have their thing. So, well, I suppose that is kind of where it is. But yeah, for me,
whatever blows your hair back, my sister always says.
Exactly. Yeah, whatever rocks your boat. That's for sure. No, it is an interesting subject, and it's another thing that's, I guess, quite divisive, because I do feel that not so much vegetarians, but vegans are definitely quite militant, aren't they? When they talk about
I think it's that they do call themselves active. A lot of vegans are activists, so I understand that as well. So I think you've got militancy, if you want to use that term. In a lot of spheres, you get a lot of people when it comes to meat that are quite heavily militant. So I think it's everywhere, but I think they see themselves as activists. This friend of mine, definitely, I've got two vegan friends,
right?
And we still sit around a table, and then I cook, for half the table vegan, and the other half eats meat. So I always feel like I want to accommodate everyone.
Oh, absolutely.
It's true. I just think they see themselves as activists, and that with that comes, I think, with that field, a bit of militancy, I guess. Sure. I haven't fought with them ever, so I'm trying to think when last they were, whether they are militant. Maybe they're militant with other people. I don't know, but could be.
Well, I don't know these two people, but the people that I've
the ones you've come across.
The people I've encountered, I suppose, probably because I'm such a advocate in my personal life and whatever, to
just sort of, I don't know if it's an education thing or it's just because I do some research on the subject, so it's
That's
it
cool.
is it's an interesting thing for me, but I'm a firm believer in each to their own, and you can
fully.
do whatever you want, but don't tell me what to do. I'm not going to tell you what to do. But yeah, I mean, we've got vegans over as well. We've got plenty of vegan friends. It's a big thing here in London. And yeah, I mean, I'll pop some veggies in somewhere, and I'll make sure that they. And I've got when I make this sort of Nutella thing with cashews, and I've got a vegan version of that as well for a friend of ours. And when I make like marshmallows and stuff like that, I've got two recipes. I've got one with coconut sugar and the other one's with honey. So for the vegan people, I'll make the one with the coconut sugar. And yeah, man, coconut sugar is the way to go. It's
I've never actually had it.
No.
I'll have a look and see if we have it here.
It is good.
Sounds amazing.
So much better than just regular processed sugar. It's sugar as well is one of those things where it's really just not good for you. It just causes inflammation. And there've been studies where people have had their shrunk their tumors inside their body by just cutting off the sugar. Going like on a ketogenic diet or something like that is really good to reduce inflammation within your body, because fair enough, meat may be a carcinogenic, maybe, I don't know. Some people say yes, some people say no, but it isn't. It is definitely not alkaline, that's for sure. You can counter these things by choosing differently, cooking with coconut oil, cooking with olive oil instead of vegetable oil, all these sorts of little changes that you can make. It really makes a difference. So yeah. So
be is healthy and while still enjoying your life.
That's it. Well, we've only got one life, and we're here for as long as we're going to be. Who knows what's coming after? Maybe it's just a lot of darkness, and maybe it's people singing and angels weeping. But whilst we're here, this consciousness, when we're here, we might as well just enjoy it as much as we can and cause little harm to others. I think that's the way to do it. Just do your thing and causes little harm or distress to anybody else. And if everybody can live in this sort of way, I think we'd all get along a lot better. But hey, what you gonna do? Tell me, when was the last time you went kayaking?
It hasn't been. I haven't been kayaking in ages, in a very long time. I'm actually. I've said so many times we need to go. The same friend that I went kayaking with, as we see each other and say, well, let's go again. It's like, yes, when? Let's let us know. I think it's trying to get your time together, sorted, and
of course.
It's very difficult these days, obviously, especially now. But for the last couple of years, not at all. I'm afraid. I'm sorry to disappoint, but I do miss it. No, it's just really the most amazing thing.
It's an interesting thing that I wanted to sort of touch on. I mean, I love the idea.
But it's amazing.
I'm shit scared of sharks. I tell you what, I'm massively fascinated by them. Like I read up. If ever I see anything about a shark, any kind of information, anything, I'm there and I'm consuming it, voraciously, like a shark would eat me. But I know they don't like the taste of us, but I'm just
apparently not.
Yeah, no, I'm just, every time I'm like, and especially if you're going in Cape Town and Gordon's Bay and places like that, I'm like, but there's fucking sharks there.
The thing is, it's, you don't really know what you're going to encounter out there. It's mostly dolphins, but the shark won't really bother you. I think the kayak is, yes, not while you're in the kayak. So maybe if you fall over, then you're in trouble. But so you need to go with someone who steers properly and go into the wave and not sideways and all those kinds of things. So it needs to be someone who knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
And thankfully I kayaked quite far out with someone who who did that often and whose children also kayaked. So it's a kind of a family thing.
This is like a tandem kayak, or did you go solo and you just followed him?
It is, yes. No, it was tandem. So I put in as much elbow grease as I could, and he would steer. So it was an amazing experience. And when you're out there, the view of Cape Town and Table Mountain and Signal Hill and everything, when you're sitting on the water and you're looking at that peninsula, it is gorgeous. I mean, go for a sunrise or a sundown. It's amazing. It's quite cheap, and young kids go, like 2-3-year-olds. They've taken out very young kids that sit in the kayak with them. So there's a little kayak shop exactly where you would go out. We went out on another route where this guy lives, this friend of mine. So no, it's just so beautiful to do it. And you feel quite free.
Yeah.
But we did it now for a good cause, and we went all the way to Robben Island and back. And I tell you, Tiens, I don't think I've been that tired in my entire life. It's
quite a ways to go.
It is. We did 22 kilometers. So if you look at Robben Island from Cape Town side, you think it's this narrow, but then if you go around it, it's actually quite long that way. So it would have added an extra 10, and the wind started picking up. And if we didn't get back before the wind started picking up too much, the boat that went with us would have had to, pull us back, which we didn't want. So all the way there, you're fine. On the way back, your core, everything is in your core.
Yeah.
Your core gets so unbelievably tired, and then this friend would say, no, don't worry, that MSC ship right there, you know that MSC ship right there, we will be there any moment now.
Yeah, just now.
And half an hour goes past, and you have literally not halfway reached. But yeah, I asked him about the sharks, by the way. I said, no, but so what is when a shark kind of, comes to the boat or to the kayak and, hits it with its nose or whatever the case may be. And he says, no, apparently you're just supposed to hit it with the, what do you call it? With the rowing thing, the paddle? Yeah. So that's what you need to use. Don't worry about it, And I asked him, so you bad, how deep is it now when we first went out onto open water? And he said, well, what does it matter how deep it is here? You can't stand here.
Okay.
And I just needed to, for a moment, think of that, because if you're in a swimming pool in the deep end, you can't stand there either,
True.
So what's the difference between how deep it is there and how deep it is in the ocean? You can't stand there. So it was just a bit of wisdom that I thought was quite cool.
That's fair enough. But then also you don't have minibus-sized man-eaters swimming around in the swimming pool. Shit, man, I tell you what, I remember, because we had this discussion the other day about when we were growing up and the films we were allowed to watch as children. I love my parents, but I think maybe they made a bit of a faux pas there, because I remember I watched Jaws when I was 3, and I was so
everyone,
didn't even want to go take a bath. I was just like, nope. Wherever there's water, there's going to be this fucking monster, and it's going to want to kill me. Yeah, no, it's
yeah, it is. And they're massive. They're massive. Someone here now, also a musician, but she's also an open water swimmer. They went swimming in that area. The documentaries where the sharks come out of the water and eat the robber. What do you call it? Rob. Thanks. Anyway,
Seals.
Yeah. Come out and eat them and stuff. And she swam through that, shark infested areas.
My Lord.
So yeah, with a boat for the arts, actually, for the funds.
Right.
So yeah, but yeah, it's not something I actually wanted to swim from Camps Bay to Sea Point along the coast.
Yeah.
So that would have been about 5 kilometers, also for a good cause. And the NSRI, the National Sea Rescue Institute, just said, you can do it. We'll be there for you. But the more we like you, the less we think you should do it, because it's actually not the sharks, it's your blood sugar, all those things that start affecting you, because it's quite cold. It's cold water in that part of the world. So that's more the problem. That's the thing and you're not, when it comes to open water swimming, you're not allowed to wear top to toe bodysuit, for example. You're only allowed, for a guy, only allowed a Speedo, for a woman, only allowed a Speedo swimming suit. Swimsuit, so you're not allowed to wear something to keep you warm. Then it doesn't count in their rules.
Okay.
So it's quite interesting, but So
Okay.
yeah,
Well, maybe just go
sadly
skinny
didn't
dipping.
do that.
Just say, you know what? I'm just gonna wear nothing,
Yeah.
and I'll be fine. And I'm gonna be cold all over in the same degree.
Yeah, that is just yeah. I don't know. Hey, I've become slightly less adventurous. Although I went flying the other day, at least that was fun.
I saw that. That was
I took
awesome.
off. That was so fun, so much fun, and it's so beautiful again. From the sky to have a look at this area of ours. It's gorgeous.
No, I mean, you and me, we're fortunate in that, we come from South Africa and we've got such a beautiful country. It's
Exactly.
It's I think it's the only sort of point of nostalgia for me is just the countryside and just the wildness. I mean, I grew up quite wild up in the north anyway. If I think about what I used to do at my daughter's age and what, she's not used to any of these sorts of things. We used to go, friends of ours had a game farm that was bordering the Kruger National Park. And the border was basically just like a line on a map somewhere, so it was as wild as you're going to get. And we used to, my old man and I, we'd go for the weekend, go and visit our friends. And then about, say, 3 p.m., we take a two-way radio and a gun and we just walk into the bush, And then, when it gets to about maybe 5:30, we'll radio in. We're like, okay, we walked 2 kilometers this way and then a little bit that way, and we're by this big tree. Then they'll come with
wow.
And all the camping gear and stuff. And then, then we make a fire. And when we're, sat in our camp at night, after we've had a meal, whatever, you can hear the lions like here, maybe like 20 meters away.
Yeah.
They're all just sitting there and they're just, making noises and stuff. And you shine the light over there and then you can see them. They're over there. They're kind of keeping their distance. But I mean, these sorts of things, I grew up doing that, since when I was 4 or 5 years old. And I mean, one of the things when we went hunting in Zimbabwe, it was a completely wild game farm, massive place. And so the majority of these animals have never even seen a human being. And because we went on a big meat hunt, there was always just tons of meat, drying, because we were making biltong and we were making wors and we were making all sorts of things. So there was an area of the camp which is full of meat. And so for that, and also because it's so wild, we had everybody sleeps and then there's a sentry that sits there with a gun and he keeps the fire burning and he makes sure that everything's okay. If there's any movement, he'll sort of sort it out, and everybody gets a turn to be the sentry. And as we slept was basically tarpaulin, and then you sleep in a row in your sleeping bag, no tents or anything like that. You just sleep on the ground. And the one night,
I'd be worried about snakes. Yeah.
Oh, snakes, yeah, not so much. I was more worried about hyenas.
Sorry.
Because
yes, okay. Well.
The first night we got there, my old man, he shot a kudu, and it was already dark, so we didn't have time to skin it. So we just hung it up in a tree, probably maybe about 20 meters away from where we were sleeping. So a fair distance. And we were having dinner and everything, and then we heard the hyenas. We shined the light over there, and there's 3 of them trying to jump and get at this kudu, trying to take it home. So when we were sleeping, we were more cautious about hyenas and stuff like that.
Sure.
But what happened this night is the sentry fell asleep, and so we woke up the next morning, and I don't know, 3, 4, 5 lions had decided to come and check us out, and they walked over us as we slept. We found paw prints about this big in between our sleeping bags. So that was a bit of a hairy situation.
You must have been extremely tired not to realize, or to smell a lion.
Well, we were sleeping, man. We were out. So yeah, I mean, hunting all day in the bush in the summer. It's it wasn't quite summer. It was April, so it was starting to be winter or fall, if you will, autumn. So it wasn't quite that hot, but yeah, walking around all day trying to get some game is a tiring thing. So yeah, we were out. But that was we also got attacked by a leopard, my dad and I, on that same trip.
Well, I was about to say, oh my word. Wait, with tigers attack, what happened with the leopard?
We'd hung back that day because we were making lunch. There was like basically 4 family groups, dads and sons. And every day somebody had stayed back, from the main hunt to sort of make lunch and everything. So when people come back, we can have something to eat and then we'll go all out together again. And so we hung back that afternoon and we'd finished. I'd made some pop and we had some food, and there were a few of the guides. They stayed back in the camp. And so we're like, everything's ready and the guys aren't back. Let's just take a walk around here and see if we can find anything. Probably we won't, but let's just have a look. So we were about 200 meters out of the camp and we turned left to go over this sort of dry riverbed, which is maybe 25, 30 meters across. And we just hear this leopard, and I look at the guide and the guide's gone. He's in a tree back there somewhere. And luckily my old man, he was a sharpshooter when he was in the army. So this leopard started storming at us straight away. It wasn't a full grown leopard, but it was big enough. I'd say it probably maybe stood about 750 mils tall. So it was big enough to cause some serious damage to me. I was 11 years old.
Yeah.
So he shot him. He fell. He got up, stormed again. He shot him again, fell. So 4 shots basically it took. And he fell as he was running, and the dust kind of like blew in our faces. So it was that was a close one.
Hairy.
But the reason why it attacked us is because some idiot asshole tried to shoot it, obviously, and didn't do a good job, and he didn't finish the job. So the 3 animals that you don't wound ever in the bush is a leopard, a buffalo, and a bushbuck, because they'll take their revenge on anything and anyone that comes close. So unfortunately, he was hurting. Luckily, we survived, and we put him out of his misery. Which it was still a sad thing, but these things happen. It was him or us, so there was not really much choice there.
Yes, but I think it's also interesting how wild animals have memory. I mean, I'm not talking about general memory, but historic memory to a certain extent.
100%.
I think yes. When I went to, I think it was Tanzania. I'm trying to remember now. That or Rwanda. We went to different parks, national parks, and there were elephants. In Rwanda, less because of the civil war and the genocide, and a lot of these animals were hunted for food. So, and that's one of the reasons. I can't remember which country, but this is what happened. We went to one of the parks, and the animals were quite, I don't want to say docile, but they were comfortable with you being there. So don't come too close, but it's okay if you're standing over there.
Yeah.
And then we got to the next park, and the tour leader or tour guide told us we have to hang back quite far, because in this camp and for this park, a wildlife park, unfortunately they were hunted and they're extremely aggressive. And the moment we got closer, we had to reverse at some point very slowly to get out of the way, because they very, very aggressive, ears flapping and stomping.
Are we talking about elephants now? Yeah.
Elephants, sorry, yes, elephants, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's amazing how it's generational memory of not trusting. So that was very interesting to see. I didn't. You wouldn't think they have that kind of social memory. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's another sort of interesting concept. Like I said before, as we've kind of evolved to the point where we are now, we have the memories from our ancestors hundreds and thousands of years ago, which is in us. It's that thing that you don't really even need to tell a kid, don't put your hand in the fire, because they fucking know it's going to burn.
Yeah, we hope they do. Flip it. I burn myself all the time.
Oh, man.
Every weekend running for the burn guard like an idiot, you know. But yeah, I guess I just don't mind hurting myself that much.
You and me, same, man. My hands look like a killing field. I'll tell you what, it's but
yeah.
it's one of those things. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, no, it's great, man. It's I love reminiscing. I think as I'm getting older, I get more and more sort of nostalgic about these things. And as I said, since I've got a kid, I would have loved to be able to take her on these adventures. My old man was very good for that. We went hunting and fishing sort of every weekend, really, when I was a kid. And I
was about to say maybe you should take it to the Scottish Highlands or something. I mean, there are no lions there, but maybe a little bit more rough terrain.
It would be. I mean, I definitely will when summer hits. I will, because I bought a van in December, so I'm putting that into a camper van at present. So as soon as that thing's done, it's going to be out and about. I took her fishing last year for the first time, and she enjoyed the hell out of that. So I think maybe we'll do a bit more.
That's cute.
Yeah, no, it's catch and release.
Nice.
I mean, I don't eat fish anyway, so it wouldn't make a difference to me.
Okay. But, I love fish. You should eat some. Well, snook. Maybe snook is better.
Snook is definitely something that I might like. Game fish. I like swordfish or things like that. I'll have some of that because it's quite meaty. But I think maybe the thing for me with fish is just all the bloody bones.
It's work to eat.
Yeah, pretty much, right? You sweat as much as you eat, so you're hungry again as soon as you put your fork down. But who knows?
That's good. It's good that you have to put in the effort to eat. Maybe I always say if I've baked the bread myself and I've kneaded that bread myself, then I feel better about eating it too. I guess
it's so much better.
Bit extra work.
Nice bread. Do you do sourdough bread? Or do you just do regular bread?
Yes, I did. I just do regular, but I do proof for much longer. Regular ciabatta. I do ciabatta starters, Italian starters, which stands for 24 hours. I did do some sourdough. I'm not brilliant at it. It was nice. But with the lockdown period, you couldn't find any form of yeast or you couldn't find flour for quite a long time. Everybody was baking. So I've done some before, but I want to enjoy what I'm doing. I guess it took forever to keep that little plant alive, and it got a little bit sour, the plant itself. So the bread was also quite sour, but unfortunately the plant wasn't successful. So I need to do it again, but my poor boyfriend, he just looked at me and said, that thing in my house, never again. So, but we need to do it again.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing with that, when I started about this time last year, our neighbor gave me some sourdough. He's like, "Oh, you want to try your hand at this?" And as you do, just dive in willy nilly. I did that, but then when I get intrigued by a subject, I start doing more and more research and more. YouTube's great for that. The thing about the starter is that it's got a 24-hour life cycle, and it grows for 12 hours, then it shrinks for 12 hours. And if you catch it on the way up, your bread's sweeter, and if you catch it on the way down, your bread's more sour. There's all these little intricacies and stuff that you got to get into to
all the technicalities.
Yeah.
The science, the
science bit.
The cat has come to visit. Yeah, exactly. The cat is here. He's looking for attention. But so if you see me leaning, I'll be here rubbing his head, scratching his head. Although he's such an asshole, actually. Sorry for the lovely language. It's not a very nice cat. He loves me, but he can be such a.
Cats
I want to use words,
aren't they?
Yeah. I love dogs, but this cat has got such personality. It's amazing. Character.
You just had to have it. No,
exactly.
More of a dog person myself, but It's I've always had animals growing up. That's another thing about living in London. It's so hard to have
Yes.
to keep animals. It's a
True.
well, what you gonna do, right?
Very sad. Yeah.
No.
Well, we can't get a dog. Not with him. He won't tolerate a dog.
No.
He'd probably run away or hide underneath the bed for 5 weeks or something like that. Nah.
At
Yeah,
least then you
anyway.
have some peace for 5 weeks, right?
True. That's what my boyfriend would say. Yeah. Nah.
There you
Oh,
go.
it's cute. Anyway, it's being picked up, so I'm not showing the cat. It's okay.
Okay, we know it's there. What's the cat called?
Yeah. Simon. Simon in Afrikaans. Yeah. I'm trying because he's a stray cat. He was found here in Simondium.
Okay.
So the place's name is Simondium and they called him Simon. Yeah.
Where's
It's not
Simon?
originally my cat, it's my boyfriend's cat, yeah. Previously. So I'm the cat stepmother, basically.
Okay. All right. Well, that's probably why you cold shoulder every now and then.
No, he loves me. He loves me to death. But Shab, there's an older cat here as well. And he hates her. And but anyway, he can be like that with everybody. But yeah,
Quite a
he
character.
decides he doesn't want you guys to sleep anymore. Then anyway,
Yeah, my my buddy, one of my work colleagues, he adopted his mother-in-law's cat, or was kind of forced to adopt the mother-in-law's cat.
Right.
Yeah, apparently this cat has the same thing. Like when he decides nobody's going to sleep anymore, that he'll come and jump on your face at 3 a.m. and
meow, 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 meow.
Brilliant.
I won't call him any more names. I love him to death. Yeah.
Okay.
Love the cat, but yeah.
Shout out to Simon there. We'll let him be his cat self.
Yeah. He has a foot fetish though. That's I heard of a cat with a foot fetish. You've never seen anything like it in your life. I know this is an unnecessary topic, but he looks at your feet like it's scratches himself against the feet. If you lift your foot, he goes crazy. Not so much with hands. This weird cat, but yeah. Anyway.
Very strange. Maybe he just wants more caress surface. So he's like the
surface area. Yeah.
I want all the contact I can have.
It's the scratch. Yeah. Loves the scratching.
Brilliant. So tell me, when is this cookbook of yours coming out? The next one? Or you don't know yet? You've only just given the manuscript in.
So we've got deadlines now. So in South Africa we've got Erfenis Day, it's Heritage Day. It's in September. And a lot of people barbecue. South Africans across the board. It doesn't matter from what culture you come, you barbecue. It's every single language, culture in South Africa love the barbecue and the amazing ways that people have to cook their own meat. Shisanyama that a lot of people do in Soweto, for example, and everybody's got their own way of doing it. So a lot of people barbecue on that day. So they want to that's the published date is then in September on Heritage Day. So yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to that.
No pressure, Tiens. It's okay, no pressure.
You'll be fine. We're only in March, April. Hey, today is 1st of April. So
yeah.
Got
Can
time.
you believe it? Yeah.
Got time. Jeez, I can't believe it, man. This year, as I mentioned to a friend of mine, felt at the same time like the blink of an eye and a decade. It is sort of like you don't really know where you stand at the moment, but it seems like you're like, oh, we did that yesterday. No, that was 2 weeks ago. It's like, oh shit, okay. But it's,
exactly.
It's a very weird time that we're living in, but we'll get past it as we did everything else, I think, and we just need to come together and not pull apart. As you said, the ability to communicate and to argue, not argue so much, but share ideas of differing viewpoints, I think is an essential part, and to be able to stay cool and calm when having these discussions, I think is maybe something that we need to all kind of embrace a little bit and get better at again, because there seems to be a lot of anger and frustration, and I can understand that. If you speak to your psychological buddies, that they they'll tell you the same thing. I think it's a fear and a frustration and everything else, but I think if we supersede this, we'll definitely be better for it on the other side. Hopefully
Fully agree.
Hopefully be more close
Resilient
to each other than having pulled apart. So let's hope for the best. But yes, resilience is another thing, and I think that is one of the things that has been quite interesting to watch during this time, where people have found different avenues to, different outlets for themselves, for them arts. I mean, because most of the people I know are musicians or sort of music industry people, because it's the job that I've been doing for a long time. And, a friend of mine, bass player, double bass player, really good guy, fantastic musician. He started a pizza pop-up, and his pizza place is now rated one of the best in London. And he's like, well, I'm making more money doing this than playing jazz, so I'm just going to keep doing this now.
True. And,
everybody's
also pretty good pizzas, probably. Love pizza, probably.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's good. I'm quite lucky. I deliver my Sardinian sausage. He's got a Sardinian pizza, and I make the sausage for his pizza for that one. So that's nice to be involved in.
Nice. Cool. So cool. Yay.
Yeah. Well, I think we should probably call it for now. I've got a few things that I have to get on with. I'm making a quote for a pergola. Some guy wants me to make him a pergola. So just saw there was a text message coming through, like, where's this quote? So better get on that.
Now you got to do stuff that can make you hard money. But I'm looking forward to this, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
It was fun chatting to you. Dankie dat jy in my gedink het. So cool. Very, very cool.
Well, to be honest with you, I've been thinking about inviting you ever since I started the podcast.
That's so cool.
And I've been, like I said, I've been slightly nervous about it ever since we set it in stone. But I'm glad that we got to do it, and hopefully we can do it again sometime. Maybe once the cookbook comes out, we'll do another one, and then we'll promote the hell out of that one. Not that anybody's watching this, but
And I'll be hard. I'll next time light the fire, and then we'll do a brisket tutorial or something. I don't know. But
that sounds great.
Something like that.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you doing that.
Thanks so much, Jens.
Hi, lovely. And
good luck with all the hard work and the handwork.
Just do me a favor, and when we're done here, just send me like a message with all your social media stuff that we can put that out there.
Okay, cool.
And it should probably
everything is Martelize Brink.
Okay.
But I'll send it. I'll send it.
Do that. Yeah. This will probably be out.
I'll send it now before I forget. Okay, that's very cool.
I'll let you know.
Okay, I'll send it to you quickly. Thanks, Jens. Start the big quote.
Donkey. Right. There you have it. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I have. And I will be linking to Martelize's socials in the description, as will I do mine. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, subscribe. Keep it sound.